My name is Will Gaylord with Let the Madness Begin, and a couple of days ago, I read an outstanding new article entitled, I Approve This Message, Five of Jill Stein's Best Policy Proposals. And today I have the pleasure of speaking with the author of that article, Marteena Morano. So thank you for being here, Marteena. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Good. So first, let me congratulate you on a beautifully written article. It is long, but it's very detailed. It's full of relevant information. It was very, very engrossing, so much so that I could not put it down. And a couple of times, my wife was trying to get my attention, and I did not hear her at all. So thank you for that.
Well, you're welcome, and I apologize to your wife because I know what that's like.
Right. Yeah, she, got a little bit upset, but we're okay now. In the article, you spoke about the different campaigns of Jill Stein, Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump, and Gary Johnson, and you did that in 5 areas. You did that on climate action, healthcare, education, peace and human rights, and criminal justice reform. So, what I want to know is what made you write this article analyzing the candidates in these key areas?
It was because progressives were kind of up against this echo chamber now, this Clinton-Trump echo chamber, where it doesn't take a Clinton supporter or a Trump supporter even very much effort to make their arguments. They're being spoon-fed these talking points by, like they've read 3 articles already about how Jill Stein is anti-vaccine, and they've read articles about how Hillary Clinton is the most honest politician. So they have their talking points lined up for them. There's pundits, there's celebrities and comedians who are all just spoon feeding them this stuff that they can just regurgitate at will. And it doesn't even matter if it's credible, if it's accurate. They'll just spew it all out there. And I've noticed that a lot of progressives are having trouble finding ways to mount these arguments, because it's kind of like the other teams, they're coming to this fight with ammunition. Our people, we have to like go figure out how to make the bullets, like become policy experts, and then like bring all the bullets to the fight and make them, like one at a time. And it started to become a situation where people just pile on, and progressives are getting bullied. So I really wanted to compile sources, give talking points that just kind of deconstruct the whole argument all at once, and then provide a lot of different sources so people can just, for each argument, they have things to throw out there that are, as accurate as I could find. And then if they're questioned about it, if they're challenged on it, they can just scroll to the bottom and pick out, not everybody has the time to do Google searches and be like their own research library, so I took the time to kind of get all of that together, so that, because I was seeing a lot of people backing down from their position, people who let themselves be swayed because of this social pressure, which is a very real thing that's happening. And I just didn't want to see it happening anymore. So that's the reason why both of my articles are both quite long. It's because I wanted them to be comprehensive. I didn't want to leave anything out. I didn't want to leave anything hanging. I didn't want to break them down into pieces so that you'd have to go to different articles to see it. This way you can just look at it. It's all right there.
Okay. I thought it was a very fair assessment in the different campaigns. Now, I know from time to time we do see that this election, the campaign season has gotten really nasty, especially concerning Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. And, that's probably because they are viewed so unfavorably. So was it difficult to remain kind of neutral and, I don't know if I could say unbiased, but I mean, because of course you do have your opinions on,
Mm-hmm.
which candidate is best, but was it difficult to just stick to the issues?
Um, in a way, I think that, like you said, I clearly I have a bias. I'm very much in support of Jill Stein, and I think that one of the things that I wish more people would do when they write about the candidates is not try to pretend to not be biased, because it gives context. You know, like if people want to fact check what I've written because they don't support Jill Stein, that's their right to do. And I always tell people, you know, don't take my word for it. Look into all these things. Don't even look at just the source I've provided. Do your own research if you want to debunk these arguments, and come to your own conclusion. In terms of trying to stay unbiased, yeah, it's I tried very hard. You know, I'd go back and edit a lot. If I made a statement that I thought was maybe not based on something other than my dislike or my bias. So I did try really hard to kind of look at things from a neutral perspective.
Mm-hmm. Well, you did a good job in that respect.
Thank you.
And judging from the article, you seem to be a very free-thinking individual, somebody that can think very critically.
Thank you.
So, in your opinion, why do you think people are so unenthusiastically supporting Hillary Clinton? Because you know, we know that she's, you know, we've seen the unfavorable numbers. We know that a lot of people feel that she's untrustworthy, that she's a corporate shill, and that if she does become president, that she will enact just, you know, incremental changes. So why do you think so many people are comfortable with voting for a candidate like that?
That's a good question. I think obviously the stated reason is about, you know, protecting the rights of minorities. Honestly, though, these are the people who are telling Stein voters that we're privileged, and they're telling us that I mean, and not even just privilege, white privilege, they're saying. But the majority of the people I know personally, I mean, this is anecdotal. I don't know, maybe you can weigh in on what the people that you know as well. The majority of the people that I know who are voting for Jill Stein, and I mean, there aren't that many, but they're mostly minorities. So it kind of becomes like, well, how are you protecting the rights of minorities when you're marginalizing us, you know, pretending that we don't even exist? Those of us who are voting for Jill Stein, you're protecting us by pretending that we don't exist, like we don't get a voice in that. So it's that kind of thing where it's like flips the script a little bit, and I think that they do that maybe subconsciously. I mean, I know a lot of people who are voting for Hillary Clinton who I think are generally good people. I've even said, you know, open up conversations with them that I think that they're good people. I think they're generally smart people. There's been a lot of manipulation, and I think that it's just been rammed down our throats so much by corporate media, that Hillary Clinton is the only way to being saved. And most people don't think too much about that. And it's kind of this phenomenon where you talk about like how she's a war hawk, even like John Oliver, right? And all of the celebrity, I think like Bill Maher has also said it. They'll throw out, you know, in their list, they always give that list at the end of like whatever smear piece they're doing against Jill Stein, where they say, you know, well, Hillary's not perfect. She's this and that, and she's a war hawk, and she's blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, slow down for a second, because why are you gonna say she's a war hawk and act like you don't know what that means to be a war hawk? It means she's literally starting wars. She's literally killing thousands of people with her policies, and she's not even in office yet. So if that's not enough to dissuade you, I mean, I truly don't know what it is. But then there's, you know, people don't understand what's happening in the Middle East either. So I think that goes a long way to kind of shuttering people from seeing. You know, it's like horses, they have those like blinders on so that they can't. And it's the same exact thing.
I like to refer to it as ostrich politics. You know, people do just have their heads in the sands, and they're not really looking at who she really is. You know, it's well documented, but you know, they choose to just see what, you know, the corporate media is feeding them, what these establishment politicians are feeding them. To your point about the privileged argument, we've talked about that a number of times, and this is just another smear campaign because they said the same thing about Bernie Sanders. There was that hashtag Bernie made me white. And here here in South Carolina, I saw many people of color that were supporting Bernie Sanders, and talking with many people of color on social media as well that supported Bernie Sanders. So, like I said, it was just an effort to discredit him, and they're using that same tactic to do the same thing to Jill.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that goes a long way toward making people not see it. It's just, I mean, like I said, the social pressure in this situation is so intense. And I don't know if people realize how much they're caving to it, if they think they've just been persuaded because it was a good argument, but they haven't. It's because they're being bullied.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So in the section that you talked about climate action, you explained the differences between clean energy and renewable energy. And I wanted to read an excerpt from that section. You say, the term clean energy is doublespeak, meant to sell us on the idea that funneling more money into big oil and big gas is somehow really an environmentally friendly venture. Similar political doublespeak has also been used by the Democrats to promote fracking under the guise of energy independence, even though fracking will have disastrous consequences on the environment and the climate. Furthermore, Clinton has no plan to stop fracking anytime soon. So I thought that was really important to draw the distinctions between the two, between clean and renewable energy, because Hillary Clinton does have a very long history with fracking. She took forever and a day to come out and oppose the Keystone Pipeline. And there's been a deafening silence in regards to the Dakota Access Pipeline.
Absolutely.
So what do you think in regards to climate action? What do you think that we can reasonably expect from Hillary Clinton should she become president?
Well, I mean, I think that look, she does say that she wants to install 500 million, 500 million solar panels on private homes, but the percentage of the energy that comes from private homes, it's really not, I don't have concrete numbers, so I'm just going to be kind of general, but it really is not as much as you might think. Really, the big part of the industry that needs reform is the commercial aspect of it. So what are you going to do for the commercial aspect? Well, what she wants to do is give the big oil and big gas $60 billion so that they can innovate the technology to make it cleaner, which I mean, I don't know that I need to say anything more about that. It's kind of, I mean, I think I say in that section, it's kind of or probably later on, I think I said, it's kind of like what she did with Wall Street. It's like, well, who better to regulate Wall Street than Wall Street? Well, anybody really, because what are they going to do when you give them $60 billion? I'm not saying that they won't make innovations. I'm just saying that it's not going to be enough. And if you're going to spend money anyway, you might as well spend it in the direction, like, Jill Stein wants the Green New Deal, where she wants to transition workers from the gas industry and the oil industry, take, the soldiers that have come back from the wars and transition them all into renewable energy. Train them, transition them, they'll get benefits during the exchange, and we'll have the money because we won't be at war anymore. So, I mean, I think that really sums it up. It's you can really see in Jill Stein's policies the serious difference, because I think that that's the big thing. It's like I expected when I started writing to kind of have to argue that Clinton's progressive policies weren't going far enough, and that they weren't, we can't really trust her to follow through. Bernie Sanders carries around that blue book like a Bible. Like you guys, I think, did a piece on that the other day. He walks around with it and he's always, waving it around. It's like, has he read it recently? Because they're not even in the same realm, Clinton's policies and Stein's policies. And Stein not only does she go farther to do things that will benefit the people, the 99%, but Clinton's, I mean, I was actually kind of shocked not to have heard anybody really discussing this, but the doublespeak is all throughout her platform. And it's pretty overt, where she says $60 billion to oil and gas, $1 billion up front in her first year to the police departments to try to retrain, double the funding to the DOJ. It's things like that that made me think, well, who is she talking to there? Because it's spun in a way to sound like it's really all to help us. But when you're giving that much funding to these industries that are not serving us, it doesn't send a good message to me. It sends a good message to them.
Well, I think it's no mistake that, she's taking money from private prisons. She's taking money from the private healthcare industry. She's taking money from the fossil fuel industry. So I think it's no mistake that her positions in these areas are troublesome. And when you talk about the doublespeak, she does it all the time. I mean, she's a very polished
and it's insulting
candidate.
it's insulting to tell us, look at this progressive platform, and then when you really look at it, I started just dissecting it and going, wow, this is a big FU right here. Like all this money that she's talking about giving these industries in terms of reform. But she doesn't want to put regulations that really will make a difference. It's like, what do you mean? So you're just going to give them all this money and then they're going to fix it?
I agree, because I think I heard Michael Moore recently, he talking about how she's come a long way. She's adopted a lot of Bernie Sanders positions. Yeah, and you should have seen my mouth when I saw him speaking that, and I'm thinking to myself, yeah, she came a long way in rhetoric, but we know that she has a public and a private position. We knew that,
right? Like they worked hard on that rhetoric. They had to, because it's hard to spit in someone's face and then act like you're going to tell them it's raining.
Exactly.
Which to me is exactly what she does. And so you can see, obviously, I'm biased. Hillary Clinton personally offends me to a great, like more than Donald Trump does. I don't like Donald Trump. He's awful, but Hillary Clinton.
I understand.
But okay, so
you brought up Donald Trump. So let's talk about Donald Trump for a second here. Now, I can tell you're very well researched. You know a lot about the candidates. Now, I want to know what your overall feeling about what is your overall feeling about Donald Trump's campaign, and should we really be as scared as the Democratic establishment is saying that we should be scared of Donald Trump?
No, I think that racism is a problem. Obviously, there are a lot of problems that have arisen from that. Ironically, I kind of agree with Donald Trump that one of the big problems that actually I think is driving this sort of resurgence of racism in this country is political correctness. I think it does nothing to police language when people are harboring those feelings anyway, and now they're resentful because they can't even say what they want to say. So I'm not saying that you should let people go shoot off. Somebody says something racist in front of me, I always call them out on it, but I have a conversation like with a human being. I don't shame them, and I don't I don't think there's any value in shaming for any reason. It looks like there's value when you do it and then the person slinks off, but they're slinking off to go sharpen their tools so that they can use them later. It doesn't serve anyone. And so when I speak to people about this on either side, I'm firm but polite. I don't think it serves anyone to be nasty. Donald Trump, he says a lot of things that kind of make you cringe. I don't think he should be president. I don't think that any progressive would argue that he should be president. I think, though, that the problem becomes talking about stopping him well, how is Hillary Clinton the answer to the Donald Trump problem? And it's really only because Hillary Clinton says that she's the answer to the Donald Trump problem. It's like Donald Trump has this thing where he's like, only I can fix it. Well, Hillary Clinton literally is also saying, only I can fix it. But she's not going to fix it. So it's kind of like we're allowing the racists and the bigots and, you know, the Donald Trump section of the population to sort of take over this movement by not all standing together and really doing something that would defeat the racism, that would defeat the bigotry and the hatred, that would stop and shut it down, the violence and the wars and, you know, like the violence in this country and out of the country. The only way really that it gets stopped is if you support Jill Stein and Jamu Baraka. They're the ones with the agenda that stops those things. Hillary Clinton's agenda will prolong it. It will make it worse. Ultimately, Trump's policies, it's like he's talking about make America great again. People get up in arms about that. And, you know, Hillary Clinton's thing is America's great already. Except that we've been saying that America is not great for African Americans. America is not great right now for marginalized people. So even though I don't agree with Donald Trump's message, I don't agree with Hillary Clinton's message, which is sort of to sweep it under the rug. And I don't understand how people who support Black Lives Matter could stand behind her and say that America's already great, when what they've been saying all this time is that things need to change and things are not great.
For a moment, let's switch to Gary Johnson. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know if this was your intent or not, like if you did this on purpose, but in reading your article, I came away with the opinion or the feeling that Gary Johnson is very unimpressive. And I've heard that I've heard that from multiple people as well. So I want to know, is that your perception? Is that your perception of his candidacy?
I find him pretty unimpressive. I think that you know, I've heard that the libertarians, even there was a movement in the Libertarian Party that was like Never Johnson. They wanted Bill Weld to front the ticket, but I think, I mean, this is my personal feeling about it, which is that they're kind of, this run seems to be, and I'm getting this like from their platform, because his platform literally in each section, it's like a first person, I don't want to say essay, but like it's a first person like account of like what he would do. And that's it. There's no bullet points. It's not like policy points with like specifics. It's mostly just a general sort of philosophy on the issue from a personal, you know, standpoint. And when I read that, I was just kind of like, these guys are not serious this year. Like they're running for funding because you know, this is a good year to run for funding. And you know, maybe next time around they'll get more serious about it. But you could even kind of tell, like, I don't, maybe it's just because of the media blackout. I don't really follow Gary Johnson all that much. But I don't hear about them campaigning that much. Like, I just don't know what they're up to. Jill Stein, I know what she's up to. Granted, like I said, take it with a grain of salt, because I follow Jill Stein a lot more than I do Gary Johnson. That being said, a lot of progressives, there are actually progressives who are voting for Gary Johnson because they think that Jill Stein and Gary Johnson are kind of like, all third parties are sort of equal, and Gary Johnson has a better chance of getting more percentage of the vote. And so it's like, it will dismantle the two-party system faster going through the libertarian route. But as you could see, looking at his platform, libertarians are like super Republicans. Like it's a corporatist, my husband says, it's a corporatist wet dream is to have a libertarian president, because they're all about deregulation and smaller government. And it like, even more than the Republicans are, that's what they push. And they throw in like social issues to get you, you know, they don't think that we should be regulated so much either. But the problem with taking out regulations, is that you lose your consumer protections from the government. So, people could sell lead paint, people could sell things with asbestos, and their position on it kind of is, well, you could sue. What happens if you sue and they're already bankrupt because they've
Right.
been sued and they're out of business, and now they're going off to set up their new business selling
Yeah.
something else that's bad for the population. Meanwhile, you don't have health insurance because they would take away Medicaid, I believe, Medicaid, I think. I think they also want to dismantle Medicaid. So like, there's no like uh, humanitarian angle
Mhm.
from the libertarians. They don't particularly care about people, which I think if you're a progressive is kind of the opposite of what you're about.
Why do you support Jill Stein for president? Why do you believe that Jill Stein is our best option for the future?
Well, I liked Bernie Sanders, and then after he endorsed Hillary Clinton, there was no way that I could follow suit. Because even by that point, I didn't even know that much as much about her then as I do now. Could be eventually I might have come on board if I didn't learn more about what she was about. But Jill Stein, I didn't know about her in 2012. We just kind of learned about her this election cycle, and from the beginning, just the things that she said just made sense. I find her inspiring as a woman. I think that there's like a feminist angle to it for me as well. I have a daughter, and there's it's really she inspires me to teach my daughter about what it means to be a strong woman and a good person, um, and to teach her about standing up, always standing up, never letting someone uh, manipulate you or victimize you. Being strong. And I think that a lot of people are trying to make Hillary Clinton that like feminist icon, but um, but I think that those same people, if you watch Jill Stein speak, I mean, I don't know if you saw her TYT town hall recently. Um,
Mhm.
it was phenomenal. I mean, everybody should watch that. It's so like every time, like Jenk was asking her questions, and she just did not have a bad answer. Like it was one after another, and it built momentum all the way through. And I was smiling watching it, which is such a drastic contrast from those from the clump debates, the Clinton Trump
The circus
monstrosity
shows.
debates. And so it's just like I just I had a little bit of an awakening actually, when I first started watching her interviews, where I noticed little things, and I think many women would understand what I'm talking about. When she was pressed by interviewers, how she would never apologize. She was always polite. She never got rattled. It wasn't a phony politeness. It was like she was assertive but polite. And if someone interrupted her, she said, "Excuse me, I was speaking," and she would continue her thought. And I realized how much I apologize just in talking to people. And it was at that moment when I realized that I stopped doing it, and it's served me so well. It was just like even in just debates on Facebook about political things, I would notice I would be typing things, and if it went a little long, I would feel the need to say something like, "Oh, sorry, I know it's a little long," and then I was like, delete. Like, I'm not going to apologize for my thoughts, for my ideas, for my feelings and my beliefs. And I think that that's something that I gained from watching Jill Stein speak. It's something that I think our children can gain. Our daughters and our sons. She's a role model. She's a champion of the people and a woman and a doctor and a mother and just all of the things that she's able to be while being a woman, is impressive to me, to an extreme degree. I find her, just like I said, I keep saying impressive, but I just find her to be an incredibly impressive person. And I kind of I model myself after her a little bit. I think at this point, I strive to be that kind of confident, that kind of strong. Um, it's just great, and I hope that my daughter also can benefit from having a mother who values those things.
That's cool. I like you, came on, I guess, late too, because I didn't know about her in 2012 as well. I learned about her last year. I believe it was about the around the summertime, maybe. And she was doing an interview with Larry King. And really, I had went to Larry King because I wanted to find out more about Lincoln Chafee. And then it just so happens that she was doing an interview that same segment, or in another segment, but that same show. And so I looked at her and I was like, "Oh my gosh, who is this?" And
Right?
uh,
It's like when you first see her
yeah,
and she's talking, and you're like, "Holy crap, that makes
exactly.
sense."
Yeah. And the more I found out about her, the more I listened to her. One thing, or really the most important thing to me in a candidate, is that they are clean, that they are not engaged in money and politics, that they are not corrupted. Because no matter what anybody tells you, it's bribery. It is legal
Hmm.
bribery. So all this money that they are taking from these corporations, these special interests, these billionaires, it of course is having an effect on their policies and on their actions. If I'm taking a lot of money from somebody, it's not going to be with no strings attached. I think I think that's a little asinine to believe that.
Oh,
So again,
definitely.
yeah. So that's my main concern, because I believe that money in politics touches everything. And politics touches everything. So if you have a dirty candidate, then they're going to do dirty things. They're not going to serve the interests of the people. So
Exactly, and that's
yeah,
that's also one of the reasons why, like, um, people who talk about like building this movement from the bottom up, it's like, what are you talking about? Since when can you put an inexperienced newcomer into a system to change it? Like
right.
the corruption will protect itself. And that person will either be corrupted or they'll be chewed up and spat back out. You need, Jill Stein calls herself, she says that she would be an organizer in chief. You put someone in at the top to weed out all of the corruption beneath by enforcing the regulations and taking out the people who aren't following those regulations, and she could essentially say to us, the people from the top, um, this is what I'm proposing. If this is something that you'd like to see passed, these are the senators or the congressmen who are blocking it. So
I,
vote, you know,
I
and
completely
that's
agree.
kind of the way to get things done.
Mhm.
I think. I mean, I don't see where this argument is that we should fight for 30 years. And this movement has been going on for a long time. It's not new.
Mhm.
It's been decades in the making, generations in the making. So we've, people, I'm not going to really include myself in that, like, and take all the credit for like everyone else's hard work, but people have been working hard for a long time for this. So it kind of, again, like, it marginalizes those people for you to make that argument, as if people haven't been working from the ground up, as if there haven't been people in these campaigns canvassing door to door for years. And it's just silly. It's a silly argument. A lot of these arguments are silly, and they're pretty easily deconstructed. It's just that they're so prolific. They're all over the place. They're so pervasive that even the people who don't believe it don't necessarily know why they don't believe it, because people just spout it off all the time.
Right. So, what got you started on writing? How long have you been writing, and what encouraged you to start?
Um, well, when I was young, I used to write a lot, and I thought I wanted to be a writer. And I mean young, like 10, 11, 12. But I ended up in acting. And I've pursued a career in acting for most of my life. Um, a couple of years ago, when I got pregnant with my daughter, I decided to put that kind of on the back burner and start my family. But I needed an outlet for my creativity. So I started writing. It wasn't I didn't expect it to be anything seriously serious. Like, I wrote a couple of plays that I didn't do anything with. But when the election drama started, when it started to become really apparent, I guess after Bernie Sanders lost the primary lost the primary. Um, and it became apparent that, people, no one was going to come fix this for us. Like no one's going to swoop in and save us from this. My husband and I both kind of were like, we have to do something. Everybody has to do something. So let's figure out what we can do. So we just started writing. I started writing the 2 articles that I wrote took me months to write, because I write, when my daughter is napping for like an hour at a time. I write after my family's gone to sleep at night. I stay up to the wee hours, writing or editing. It's been kind of a labor of love. And it's been not easy at times, but again, I think it really came out of a place of just extreme will, I guess, of needing to get this in front of people, needing to get people to see it. Because I mean, if you think about, the movie The Matrix, I've heard a lot of people talking about into this current situation. And I think that the reason that movie was so popular at the time, the first movie, is because a lot of us, I guess on some level, came away from it uneasy, feeling that it kind of could be true in a real way. And now I'm seeing these parallels. But the problem with real life is that there is no Neo. There's not going to be that one. Jill Stein is not Neo. She's not the one. Jill Stein is Morpheus. She's waking us up, and really we're Neo. We all have to make the decision that Neo had to make to be the one, and we have to do it together. I think even Ajamu Baraka said in some I don't remember what it was that he was where he was speaking, but he literally said something the other day that was like, we can't do this without you. And it really, and Jill Stein is saying all the time, we are the ones that we've been waiting for. And that means all of us. It's I think we all are kind of used to sitting back and letting our politicians advocate for us. But what has it gotten us? So we all have to kind of step out of the shadows and get motivated and do anything in any way that we can. And that's what I was doing really with the writing. If anything that I could do to sort of lend one more voice to the movement, because it needs all that it can get.
Well, I'm glad that you did take the initiative to start writing. You definitely have a knack for it. You wrote, like I said, a beautiful piece. I want to thank you so much for doing this interview with me.
Thank you. Well, thank you for having me, and I want to thank you as well for what you do. It's super important. I think you guys reach people on a level that a lot of, I shouldn't say a lot, but many of the other YouTubers can't necessarily, like they kind of preach to the choir, which is also valuable. Cause like I said before, it gives you talking points, but you guys, I think, have more of like a commercial appeal. Like I can post your videos on my Facebook page and not think that people will think I'm a conspiracy kook. So thank you for that.
We don't really get into conspiracy. We like you in your article, we do like to talk about the facts, and let our opinions take us from that place, and I think that's the best way to do it.
It doesn't, because it doesn't mean necessarily that you don't see value in the other things, maybe
Right.
believe a little bit of some of the more, they're not all conspiracy theories. Obviously, we've seen them proven true, but I tried to, in the articles, even avoid going to those places because that's where you get the knee-jerk like denials from people. So
Right.
I didn't go into like the vaccines, and I didn't go into like, Hillary Clinton's emails and stuff like that. As well, a little bit I linked to WikiLeaks, but because all you're going to get from that is people, shutting down.
Right.
But
And they'll say
that's
it's
kind of the
right-wing
whole point, is
conspiracies
to
or something.
choose. Yeah, but that's kind of the whole point, is to say, even without all of that stuff, like if you can bring a case that even without all of the conspiracies, because I've been accused so many times of spouting GOP talking points. I'm like, I don't even know what that means because I don't watch Fox News, but people will accuse you of it, and it's like, well, even without all of that stuff, you can make a case for why Hillary Clinton is at least as bad as Donald Trump. And it's disqualifying evil. They both are. It's like it doesn't matter who's worse. You need to just not vote for either of them. Vote for Jill Stein.
I completely agree. Completely agree. So yeah, keep doing what you're doing. You have tremendous value in this movement.
Thank you. You do
Please
too.
tell the audience where they can find you.
Okay. Well, my blog is hosted at narvinsing.com. That's Narvin with an N, ARVIN .SINGH.com. And you can also find me on Twitter. My handle is at Marteena, MarteenaMorano.
Okay.
Morano. That
And
way.
we'll put your details down the information too. But once again, thank you for doing this with me. It was a pleasure hearing your thoughts about this current election, and it was definitely a pleasure reading the article.
Thank you.